Hello. Today I want to talk about transformation and the cycle of change. I think sometimes we think of change or transformation or any change that we're trying to make in our lives. I think we often think of it as a linear process. I think because we live in a very linear world, I don't know, there's all this kind of striving and pushing and all of these things that you do all these things and you will get to this place. And it seems so linear. And what I've been learning over the past, like especially, well, over my entire journey of spiritual awakening that's been going on over the past 25 years, but especially over the past like 6 or 7 years since, I've been riding the roller coaster, the hormonal roller coaster of of perimenopause and into menopause, and then going through burnout and recovering from that, and all the different, so all of that has been part of this. I think this calling to transformation, and because I think I started feeling this kind of pull to something different about 6.5 years ago. So it would have been in my late 40s. So I think the hormonal changes of menopause certainly helped to accelerate some of these changes that I was going through. But I was living a life very much out of alignment with who I am and of my essence. And because I was working really, I was working long. I was doing one 24-hour shift a week. My days in the office, I was like doing 9 or 10 hours of in the office, and then I would come home, have dinner, put Maya to bed, and then I was doing another 2 or 3 hours of charting and labs, and I was just go all the time and pushing myself all the time, and it was crazy. That's not how, and I was getting increasingly, I was cranky, and I was starting to fight with Dave a lot, with my husband, and it was hard for me to just and then shortly after that my daughter started middle school, and she was needing me a lot more, but I didn't have the bandwidth to be there for her in the way that I wanted to, and everything was just it seemed like everything in my life was just going out of control. I just really felt like everything was way too much. And in the background there was this little voice that was calling me to, and I now, what I give words to it as helping women come home to themselves, but I didn't have the words for it back then. But there was these I'd get these little images or these feelings or these little kind of flashes of having a blog, or running courses, or giving talks, or doing these various things, and I'd get these little flashes, but I didn't know what to do with them, and my life was so crazy. And when I would get them is when I was on vacation. It was when I was finally slowed down enough that I could actually get these little hits, these little, it was like life was inviting me to something else, and I would only hear them when I was on vacation, and then I'd be back at work and busy and drowning in all my usual craziness, and they would go silent again. And it's interesting. And so what started happening is, over the next couple of years, my life just kept getting crazier and crazier and crazier, and I kept trying to keep up, and it was getting harder and harder to keep up. And then meanwhile, the hormonal roller coaster of menopause, I think, was kind of happening in the background, making things harder and harder as well. And then in August of 2020 is when I hit the wall, and I just couldn't do it anymore, and I realized I had to do something to change. And so that's what really started me to do things different, to start coming home to myself in body, mind, and spirit, and starting this real process of transformation. And that's the that's the journey that I've been on over the past the past 3-4 years, because I decided that I was going to leave my practice in August of 2020, but then I didn't. By the time I got all the pieces in place so that I could actually leave, it was April of 2021. So I'm actually coming up on the 3-year anniversary of having left my practice, and it has been a challenging but really amazing journey that I've been on over the past 3 years. And what I've been learning is about the cycle of change. And when I look back on the past few years, and especially if I look back even further to how crazy my life was before that, my life is getting better and better every year. And what I realized, but I keep thinking, okay, good, I've made it, I'm finally going to be okay now. And then I hit the next bump in the road, and I'm like, oh, things are hard again. But what I'm also realizing is that I'm getting through the bumps a little more smoothly, a little quicker, and that kind of thing. Because the most recent bump was over the past couple of weeks. So as a quick recap of the past few years, like I had in April of 2021, I left my practice, and then I was like, I felt really, really crappy for a long time, and I was doing a bunch of stuff to try to help myself through that. And then I created my first course in the spring of 2022, so that I started to feel better. There's like a big growing edge and a lot, like that was months and months of leaning into some really uncomfortable, challenging things, and really coming home to myself in that period of time to create that. And then I was like, okay, finally I feel better. And then the next, hitting the hormonal changes of menopause, and going into like the sleep getting really crazy and the anxiety getting really bad, and for a short bit of time even feeling suicidal, and like everything getting really, really crazy kind of, and then getting through that and going, okay, great, I've learned, I'm doing better. And then, and then feeling better, and then creating my second course about the things that I learned on that second part of the journey. And, to try to translate the things that I've been learning myself as I've been going through these changes, trying to translate those into something that I hope I can offer to other women to help them on their journeys. And then so earlier this year, I created my second course, Coming Home to Ourself at Midlife. And so I got that out there, and I started putting myself out into the world, and I started feeling better because more and more I'm leaning into this, my soul calling of getting out there and helping women come home to themselves. And so I started doing more of that, and then I started feeling better. So I started picking up more clinical work as well. And I started falling into back into old patterns of busy and striving, and not to the degree that I did before, but I started getting busier and making things more complicated, and revisiting some of those same things that I'd done in previous growth cycles. And it's like, there they were again. So the last couple of weeks have been rough. My sleep went completely sideways again. My anxiety was through the roof. Everything went because I was trying to do too much again. I was falling back into old patterns, and I needed to again remind myself to come home in body, mind, and spirit. And in body, that meant like my hormones have done some weird things again. So I had to increase. So I've increased my estrogen a little bit, and that seems to be helping. So hopefully that continues to help. But also making sure that I'm making the time to get out and move my body, and making sure that I'm having some downtime, and then I'm getting outside, and that I'm doing the things and eating and like nurturing my body, looking after my body, which I quickly neglect when I start getting busy. When I get too busy, I neglect my body, and then my body lets me know by waking me up at 3 a.m. Hey, Shayna, bitch, you're not looking after me. Wake up. So my body's been waking me up a lot lately. Last night I had a really good sleep, and I'm feeling a lot better since, like, with the increased estrogen and making some changes, took a lot of stuff off my plate, spending some more time outside, getting myself back into alignment, and starting to feel a lot better again. But it's interesting to me how I keep coming back that it's this growth as a spiral, that it's like I keep thinking, okay, yeah, I've figured it out now. And then, I hit the same lessons in a new way. And like when I look back, my life is getting better and better and better. Like each year I make massive strides on my life being so much more aligned with who I am, so much more the way that I want to live my life. And I keep tripping as well. It's not like it's all sunshine and unicorns. I keep tripping on myself as well. And I wanted to actually read this really great. Some of you may have heard this before, but I think this summarizes it really nicely. It's called An Autobiography in 5 Short Chapters, and it's by Portia Nelson from There's a Hole in My Sidewalk, The Romance of Self-Discovery. And this really, really speaks to me and what my experience has been over the past few years. And I want to share it with you because I think it really, really helps when we kind of trip over ourselves again and going, oh, I thought I worked through this. And just a reminder that growth and change and transformation is a process. And so I'm just going to share this with you. Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There's a hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I'm lost. I'm helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place. It isn't my fault. It takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall in. It's a habit. It's my fault. I know where I am. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down a different street. And so I love that. I find I'm kind of in, I'm in chapter 3. That's where I would place myself, is in chapter 3 in terms of where I'm at in my journey of transformation. And I think back before I made any of those changes, I was back in chapter 1. I just didn't even realize it was a problem yet. Like I just was just living my life and trying to figure it out. And then in chapter 1, chapter 2 kind of thing. And it's been over the past 3 years that I'm getting back out of the hole in the sidewalk faster and faster. Like it was at like the first time like a few years ago, it would take me months to fall out to crawl out when I fell into the hole in the sidewalk. And then it was moving to shorter and shorter periods of time. And like this last hole in the sidewalk, things felt pretty rough for a couple of weeks. And so I think what's happening is that year over year, I'm getting better at living of honoring my body, listening to my body when my body is waking. And that's the way that my body talks to me. My body knows the way to get my attention is to wake me up at 3:00 in the morning and go, hi, we need to chat. You're not living your life in alignment and you need to pay attention. So it does get my attention. And because I start feeling crappy and my anxiety gets worse and I don't feel like I can handle anything. And so I'm like, okay, this is my body reminding me to listen, to pay attention to what's happening here, and to pay attention to the signals of my body, the needs of my body, and to look after this beautiful body that I've been gifted to travel through this life with. I was actually recently introduced to this whole idea of, because they'll often talk about the ascended masters and like with meditation and all these things that you're sort of like trying to achieve something like way up here. And it was Sue Morter that was talking about this concept of the descended master. And that's what we're currently working on, like here on earth, is that we're learning to live heaven on earth, that we're learning to land in our own bodies, getting our minds to work for us rather than being a slave to our minds, to have our minds as a tool to help us towards our transformation, and then to be living and to be in alignment with our spirit, with our soul, with our soul's calling, with the essence of who we are and what we came here to do. And I find that as I do those things, as I realign myself with those things, I can feel this, I'm nowhere near that sort of level of a descended master, but I can feel the beginnings of it. I can feel that I'm learning, that I have moments of feeling like a descended master, that I'm actually living heaven on earth, that I'm actually living my life in alignment with who I am and moving through the world from this place of like, wow, life is really all magic and miracles. And the cool thing is, as I'm learning to do this too, is that in my old habit of doing things was to push to where I thought I should be, where I like push to where I thought I want it to be or where I was trying to go. And what's happening is, as I slow down and I come home to myself in body, mind, and spirit, what's happening is that I find I'm actually being pulled by life, by the magic and miracles of the universe. I'm being pulled to where I'm meant to be, rather than trying to push to where I think I should be. And the cool thing is, all of these magic and miracles, like the serendipities that are happening, the unfolding of the serendipities in my life, of the way that things kind of line themselves up when I slow down and get out of the way and allow myself to get in the way of the magic and miracles of the universe. Oh my goodness, it is incredible. And then I get in my own way again and I fall back in the sidewalk. And I get back and then I get back into alignment and realign myself with the magic and miracles of the universe, and really remind myself to come home and live my life from the inside out, rather than to look to something outside of me to make me whole or to make me happy or complete, but to actually live my life from the inside out and to find joy and freedom and spaciousness in that place. And so I hope that is a little bit of inspiration for you. And I hope that helps to give you some little bit of food for thought on your own journey of transformation. Sending you so much love. Mwah.